My name is Elena, and I learned that hard work means nothing when nepotism runs the company. For 3 years, I'd been the top-performing account manager at Henderson Marketing Solutions, consistently exceeding targets and bringing in new clients that kept our small firm profitable. I'd built relationships with major brands, developed innovative campaign strategies, and even trained new hires during my own time. My client retention rate was 98%, and I'd personally generated over $2 million in revenue for the company. So when Mr. Henderson announced there would be a promotion to regional director, I knew I was the obvious choice. The position came with a $30,000 salary increase, a company car, and oversight of our expanding territory. Elena, you've been doing excellent work, Mr. Henderson told me during my performance review. Your numbers speak for themselves. I smiled, expecting the promotion announcement. Thank you, sir. I'm excited about the regional director opportunity. His expression shifted slightly. Ah, yes. About that position. I wanted to discuss our direction for the role. Something in his tone made my stomach drop. What do you mean? Well, we're looking for someone with fresh ideas, someone who can bring new energy to the position. I've brought fresh ideas to every campaign I've managed. The Morrison account alone increased their sales by 40%. Yes, and that's wonderful work. But we're thinking about different kinds of fresh perspectives. I sat forward in my chair. Mr. Henderson, are you saying I'm not getting the promotion? He cleared his throat uncomfortably. I'm saying we've decided to go in a different direction. That different direction turned out to be his nephew, Jake Henderson, a 25-year-old recent college graduate with zero marketing experience and a degree in communications that he'd barely scraped through. Jake had worked at the company for exactly 4 months as a junior associate, spending most of that time playing games on his phone and leaving early for networking events that were actually happy hours with his college friends. The announcement came during our Monday morning team meeting. I'm pleased to announce that Jake Henderson will be taking over as regional director, effective immediately, Mr. Henderson said, beaming with pride. The conference room fell silent. My colleague Maria shot me a sympathetic look. David, our senior graphic designer, actually laughed out loud before catching himself. Jake will be implementing some exciting new strategies to expand our market reach, Mr. Henderson continued, oblivious to the shock around the table. I raised my hand slowly. Mr. Henderson, can you tell us what qualifications Jake brings to this position? Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair, probably realizing for the first time that people might actually expect him to work. Jake has great ideas and fresh energy, Mr. Henderson replied. Sometimes experience isn't everything. What about the Morrison account? The Peterson project? The 3 new clients I brought in last month. Elena, you'll continue managing your current accounts, of course. Jake will be focusing on the bigger picture. After the meeting, I cornered Jake in the break room. Congratulations on the promotion, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Thanks, Elena. I know this might seem sudden, but I've got some really cool ideas. Such as? He looked blank. Well, synergy and stuff. Digital integration. Making things more modern. I stared at him. Jake, do you know what our biggest client's target demographic is? Millennials? We represent a medical device company. Their average customer is 67 years old. Right. Well, maybe we can make them younger. That afternoon, I requested a private meeting with Mr. Henderson. I think there's been a mistake, I said, sitting across from his desk. The regional director position should go to the most qualified candidate. Elena, I understand you're disappointed. I'm not disappointed. I'm confused. Jake doesn't have the experience, the client relationships, or the track record for this role. Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair. Sometimes we need to make decisions based on the bigger picture. What bigger picture? Jake is family. This business has been in the Henderson family for 2 generations. It's important that family members understand all aspects of the operation. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. So this was never about qualifications? Family first, he said with a shrug, as if that explained everything. Jake needs to learn the business from the ground up. Then why not start him in an entry-level position where he can actually learn? Elena, I think you're being unreasonable. Jake will do fine and you'll continue to be a valuable team member. I walked out of that office knowing my career at Henderson Marketing had hit a dead end. No matter how hard I worked or how much revenue I generated, I'd never advance because I didn't share the boss's DNA. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop screen. 4 months, I'd been developing a side project, a digital marketing consultancy focused on small businesses that couldn't afford big agencies. I'd called it Catalyst Consulting, and I'd been working on it during evenings and weekends, using everything I'd learned at Henderson to create affordable, effective marketing solutions for local entrepreneurs. What started as a small freelance operation had been growing steadily. I had 12 clients paying me between $500 and $2,000 per month for social media management, website design, and marketing strategy. After Jake's promotion, I threw myself into Catalyst Consulting with renewed energy. Every evening after my day job, I worked on building something that was truly mine. I redesigned my website, developed new service packages, and reached out to potential clients. Within 2 months, I had 25 clients. Within 4 months, I had 43. I was making more from my side business than from my day job, but I kept working at Henderson, watching Jake stumble through basic tasks while taking credit for my work. Jake's first major presentation was a disaster. He confused client names, mixed up campaign objectives, and actually suggested that our medical device client target young partygoers with their hip replacement advertisements. I watched Mr. Henderson's face during that presentation, seeing doubt creep in for the first time. But instead of admitting his mistake, he doubled down. "Jake's still learning," he told the team after the client meeting. "We all have to support him during this transition." Meanwhile, Catalyst Consulting was exploding. Word of mouth brought me high-end clients who were willing to pay premium rates for personalized service. I hired 2 freelancers to help with overflow work, then 4, then 6. A local restaurant chain hired me to revamp their entire digital presence. A tech startup brought me on to launch their product. A nonprofit organization asked me to manage their fundraising campaign. By the time the company picnic arrived in late summer, Catalyst Consulting was generating over $400,000 in monthly revenue. I'd incorporated, hired full-time employees, and signed a lease on office space downtown. But nobody at Henderson Marketing knew any of this. I still drove my modest Honda, wore the same professional wardrobe, and kept my financial success completely private. The company picnic was held at Riverside Park, complete with barbecue, games, and the annual State of the Company speech from Mr. Henderson. I watched him prepare his presentation, probably planning to take credit for revenue that I and other employees had generated while his nephew learned on the job. As employees gathered around the picnic tables, Mr. Henderson tapped his beer bottle to get everyone's attention. "I want to talk about success," he began, his voice carrying across the park. "Henderson Marketing has had our best year ever, and it's because we understand what really matters: family values, loyalty, and supporting each other." I almost choked on my potato salad. Jake, who'd lost 2 clients in the past month due to his incompetence, nodded along as if he'd personally driven the company's success. "When you build a business the right way with the right people in the right positions, success follows naturally," Mr. Henderson continued. "That's why I'm proud to announce that we're expanding our operations and opening a second location." Polite applause rippled through the crowd. I wondered how much of that expansion was funded by the clients I'd been secretly servicing through Catalyst Consulting, several of whom had left Henderson Marketing specifically because of Jake's poor performance. "Now, I know some people think success comes from individual achievement," Mr. Henderson said, looking directly at me. "But real success comes from understanding your place in the bigger picture." That's when Maria pulled out her phone to check the local news, probably bored by Mr. Henderson's self-congratulatory speech. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the headlines. She nudged David, showing him her screen. David's mouth fell open. "Elena," Maria whispered urgently. "Is this you?" She turned her phone toward me, and I saw the headline that would change everything. "Local woman startup hits $5 million valuation." Below the headline was my photo, taken during an interview I'd given to the Business Journal the week before. The news spread through the picnic like wildfire. Within minutes, employees were huddled around phones, reading the article about my company's success. I watched faces turn from confusion to amazement to something that looked like respect. Elena Martinez, founder and CEO of Catalyst Consulting, has built her digital marketing firm from a 1-person operation to a $5 million company in just 18 months, someone read aloud. Martinez specializes in helping small businesses compete with larger corporations through innovative, affordable marketing strategies. Mr. Henderson was still talking, oblivious to the commotion spreading through his audience. Which is why traditional values and family leadership remain the cornerstone of American business. Uncle Robert, Jake interrupted, his face pale as he stared at his own phone. You need to see this. Mr. Henderson stopped mid-sentence, annoyed at being interrupted during his speech. Jake, I'm in the middle of. It's about Elena, Jake said loud enough for everyone to hear. All eyes turned to me. I sat calmly at the picnic table, taking a sip of my lemonade as if nothing had changed. Mr. Henderson walked over and grabbed Jake's phone. I watched his expression shift from irritation to confusion to complete shock as he read the article. This says you own a $5 million company, he said, staring at me like I'd just revealed I was an alien. That's correct. But you work here. You're an account manager. I was an account manager. Catalyst Consulting is my primary focus now. The entire picnic had gone silent. 43 employees and their families were watching our conversation like it was the season finale of their favorite TV show. Elena, Mr. Henderson said slowly, why didn't you tell me about this? You never asked about my life outside of work. You were too busy explaining why your nephew deserved my promotion. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. Elena, I had no idea you were successful, qualified, building something meaningful while you were figuring out how to use the copy machine. Maria started laughing, which set off a chain reaction of barely suppressed chuckles throughout the crowd. Mr. Henderson held up his hand for silence. Elena, this is quite a surprise. Perhaps we should discuss your future at Henderson Marketing. My future. I stood up, brushing crumbs off my jeans. Mr. Henderson, I resigned 2 weeks ago. I've been working my notice period. His face went white. You what? I pulled out my phone and showed him the resignation email I'd sent, copied to HR and the entire management team. I submitted my formal resignation on August 15th. Today is my last day. But you can't quit. You're one of our top performers. I was your top performer. The one you passed over for promotion because she wasn't family. Elena, we can work something out. What would it take to keep you? A raise? Better title? I looked around at my soon-to-be former colleagues, many of whom were nodding encouragingly. These were good people who deserved better leadership. Mr. Henderson, 3 months ago, I asked for the regional director position I'd earned. You gave it to Jake because of nepotism. Now that you know I'm successful, suddenly you want to negotiate. That's not fair. Jake needed the opportunity to grow. And I needed the opportunity to be valued for my contributions. So I created my own opportunities. David stood up from his picnic table. Elena, are you hiring? I smiled. Actually, yes. I'm looking for a senior graphic designer. I'll send you my resume tonight. So will I, Maria added. My current boss doesn't seem to recognize talent anyway. Mr. Henderson looked panicked as he realized his employees were defecting. Now hold on everyone. Let's not make any hasty decisions. Like the hasty decision to promote an unqualified nephew over a proven performer? I asked. Jake finally spoke up. Uncle Robert, maybe Elena should have gotten the promotion. I've been struggling with the responsibilities. The honesty in his voice surprised me. For the first time since this whole mess started, Jake sounded like a decent person instead of an entitled brat. Jake, your family, Mr. Henderson said desperately. Family sticks together. Family supports each other, Jake corrected. They don't hold each other back or ignore other people's achievements. I looked at Jake with new respect. Thank you for saying that. He nodded. Elena, I'm sorry about the promotion. You deserved it and I knew it even then. Apology accepted. Mr. Henderson was looking around at his employees, seeing doubt and dissatisfaction on faces that had been politely attentive an hour earlier. Elena, what would it take for you to stay? Name your price. I considered this for a moment. There's nothing you could offer me, Mr. Henderson. Catalyst Consulting is growing faster than I ever imagined. I have clients who respect my expertise, employees who share my vision, and the freedom to build something meaningful. But Henderson Marketing gave you your start. You owe us something. I gave Henderson Marketing 3 years of exceptional work. You got your money's worth. I picked up my purse and car keys. I'll have my final reports on your desk Monday morning. Jake, the Morrison account files are in my desk drawer. They prefer email communication and their budget review is next Friday. Wait, you're leaving now? Mr. Henderson looked genuinely panicked. My resignation was effective today. There's no point pretending I still work here. As I walked toward the parking lot, several employees followed me. Elena, can we talk about job opportunities? David asked. Absolutely. Call me Monday morning. What about benefits? Maria wanted to know. Full health coverage, dental, vision, and profit sharing. Plus flexible work arrangements and professional development funding. By the time I reached my car, 8 of Henderson Marketing's employees had expressed interest in joining Catalyst Consulting. Not because I was recruiting them, but because they wanted to work for someone who valued merit over family connections. I drove home that evening feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone was buzzing with congratulatory texts from former colleagues and interview requests from local media outlets. But the most satisfying message came from an unexpected source. Jake Henderson. Elena, I talked to Uncle Robert after you left. I'm stepping down from regional director. I wasn't qualified and everyone knew it. I recommended they offer the position to Maria. Also, I'd like to apply for an entry-level position at your company. I want to learn the business the right way. I stared at the message for a long moment before responding. Send me your resume. Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves based on their own merits. 6 months later, Catalyst Consulting had grown to 35 employees, including 5 former Henderson Marketing staff members. We'd moved into a larger office space and landed several major corporate clients. Jake Henderson was one of our junior associates, working his way up through actual performance rather than family connections. He turned out to be a decent worker when he wasn't coasting on nepotism. Henderson Marketing, meanwhile, had lost 40% of their clients and half their staff. Mr. Henderson called me twice asking if I'd consider a merger or partnership. I politely declined both times. The local business journal featured Catalyst Consulting on their cover 6 months after the picnic incident. The headline read, "From Side Hustle to Success Story, How One Woman Built Her Dream Company." In the interview, I talked about the importance of recognizing talent regardless of personal relationships and creating opportunities for people who might be overlooked by traditional corporate structures. I never mentioned Henderson Marketing by name, but anyone who knew the story understood the subtext. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply succeeding so completely that the people who underestimated you can't ignore your achievements. And sometimes the family that matters most isn't the one you're born into or marry into. It's the one you build with people who share your values and vision. Mr. Henderson learned that lesson too late. But I learned it just in time. The